What is up, Insaners, and welcome to our Game Week 11 team selection video of the Fantasy Premier League 2021-22 season. In this one, guys, we'll talk about our team for the upcoming game week 11. We'll also discuss transfer plans and we'll end the video with the best captain picks for the week. So guys, make sure that you hit the like button and you also subscribe to the channel as well if you're new around here. Guys, we also did a video on some of the best pressing issues for this week, including Conte and his impact on the Spurs assets, some of the best Chelsea defenders to go for, West Ham attackers, and some replacements in case you want to replace the likes of Antonio and Benrahma. It's quite a comprehensive one, guys, and it should help you take the right calls for this week. I'll add the links at the end of the video as well as in the video's description, so make sure you check it out. Now guys, before we go into what our team looks like for Game Week 11, let's just quickly look at our team for Game Week 10 and how we did last week. So guys, last week was not that great in terms of FPL. We only scored 47 points, a pretty average week. Now total points are 692 and we've dropped slightly to a rank of 28k in the world right now. I'm at least glad that the drop was not that high. A poor game week to be honest, but in hindsight guys, I think the hit doesn't look like it's worked for this particular week, but again it was a long-term move rather than only focusing on a short-term basis. Also a couple of benching calls didn't work this week, but we'll take that and move on to Game Week 11. Now in terms of our performances for Game Week 10 guys, I think Ramsdale was the standout player this week after a great performance against Leicester. I still don't know how Leicester didn't score in that game. I think they should have scored at least one if not more goals. In terms of some other players, Trent and Cancelo conceded and they got nothing from an attacking sense, so it was pretty average. Then Livramento, he put in a decent performance, he got a clean sheet, so that was at least a little bit respectable in terms of points. Now guys, I think the major issue here for our team was that Azpilicueta, he didn't start for Chelsea, and that result at the Chelsea game guys, it hurt really bad. There were hauls from the likes of Chilwell and James guys, that monster haul from James that really put us back. Our final defender Semedo, he came in from the bench for a 2-pointer and overall a pretty disappointing day for the defense. Now coming to midfield, and Salah did get an assist guys, he also had a goal ruled out, but I think with everybody captaining him this week, there wasn't any loss or gain with him in any case. In terms of some other players guys, Rafinha had a decent game, he got us 9 points against Norwich, but Leeds generally didn't look that great. We also have Foden and he did look lively against Palace, though the red card really set them back, and he did get an assist, but the goal was ruled for offside and he didn't get those assist points. In attack guys, Vardy was again poor for Leicester. Now this move hasn't really worked out well for us so far guys. Antonio somehow he escaped an attacking return in the 4 goals that West Ham scored. I still don't know how and why that happened. Toney blanked as well against Burnley in a poor performance, so nothing really great from an attacking sense as well, and overall a pretty average week. Guys, I think the major takeaway from this week was that not having James and Chilwell is really hurting our team, and it mostly could be one of them coming into our team for this week, and the rest still looks pretty okay. Now guys, coming to our team for Game Week 11, I think we're pretty much set in terms of how our team looks. It doesn't look that bad. Yes, there are a couple of moves, there are a couple of areas where we can strengthen, but I think in terms of the playing 11, it's looking pretty good. In fact, we have a couple of benching headaches to kind of look into. I think that's going to be a bit tricky to navigate. Now starting with the goalkeeper, we have Ramsdale. He's Arsenal's number 1 man of the match in the last game against Leicester guys. He still looks okay. I think he looks like the better pick in terms of going for a Sanchez. Now, of course, Raya's injured, so he's no more an option. The only keeper that could really give him some competition could be Guaita, guys, from Crystal Palace. I know I'm saying this, but Guaita looks a decent option in the long run. I think Palace have looked really good in defense, and he could still give some competition to Ramsdale, but otherwise, I think Ramsdale has to be the number 1 pick. Again, it'll be interesting to see how Arsenal does against some stronger teams. I know Liverpool and Man United could be tricky games, but I think he still is going to be a number 1 keeper. In terms of our defense guys, we're playing a back 3 at the moment, but this could very well change. Now Cancelo is on our bench guys, and I'll talk about him a little later in the video, but I think in general this could be a back 4 or even a back 3 with a different player, but we'll kind of get into each and every player now. Now right now guys, we have Azpilicueta. He might get rested. He got a shoulder injury. He missed a couple of games. Those were the games for Chelsea defenders guys, and the likes of James and Chilwell did score a lot of points, did score goals as well, and I think this is where we definitely lost out on a lot of points. Now Azpilicueta, he played the full game in midweek in the Champions League, and there's a chance that he could be rested, and I'm anyways not very confident with him playing as a right wing back guys. I think James looks like the option to go there. And I think in terms of the centre backs as well, the likes of Chalobah, Rudiger and Christensen can play, with the likes of Silva getting a rest. So I think Azpilicueta doesn't look like a very appealing option right now, and we might move him out for a Chelsea defender. Now in terms of other defenders, we have Trent and Livramento right now. Now Trent is playing West Ham. It could be a tricky game. West Ham is looking in really good form. They look like a top 4, top 6 kind of a side, and in at least in terms of attack, right, they have done pretty well, and I think it's gonna be better. I don't think so it's going to be a clean sheet for Liverpool. And again, we are depending on the attacking potential from Trent, which could or could not be there. I think in a lot of ways, it's also an eye test for the likes of Trent to remain in a lot of managers' teams, guys. Because I know a lot of people are looking for a double up in that Chelsea defense. They are looking to get in the likes of Chilwell or James. Or some people are also thinking of triple ups, right? So in that scenario, in that case, I think a lot of people would be looking at Trent and his performances very closely. I still feel he's a hold till a couple of more weeks. And then if we don't get clean sheets, if we're not getting attacking returns, if the underlying numbers are also poor, we can take a call and probably move him out. A third defender right now is Livramento, guys. And this is a very tricky position to be in. I think it could easily be Cancelo as well. But first we'll talk about Livramento. I think he's playing Villa, who don't have the likes of Ings and Lewis. I think both players could be a doubt for this game. Now, Livramento still looks good from an attacking perspective. I'm not very confident in terms of Southampton keeping a clean sheet in this game, because at least Aston Villa have a good attack. They have a decent team. They can score goals. I know defensively they are looking vulnerable right now, but at least from a clean sheet perspective, it doesn't look really great from Livramento. I still feel a lot of people are going to bench him for players like Cancelo and Diaz, because they're more trusted players, they're premium picks, and they're playing Man United, which we'll discuss now, and they could, score and even keep a clean sheet there. Now coming to the bench players, we have Cancelo. Now he started all games this season. He looks very attacking. Guys, he played a great game in the Champions League. My only worry was that he played the entire game, so he could be benched, he could be rested for this game. Now in the Champions League game, guys, he got 3 assists, and I really hope and I really wish that we can get something like this from him in the Premier League as well. He of course is playing for the best defense in the league. I still feel Man City has the best defense. Coming to an attacking return potential, guys, I think Varane is out for this game, and he would miss at least for the next couple of weeks, if not more. And I think the likes of Harry Maguire, the likes of Lindelof, even with Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka in the defense, guys, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence. And I still could play Cancelo ahead of Livramento before the deadline. I think a lot of people were benching the likes of Diaz and Cancelo for this game, but with this Varane news, with this Varane injury news, I think there's a good potential, there's good merit in playing Cancelo over someone like a Livramento. Now in terms of a bench, guys, we also have Semedo. I think he's definitely going to be on the bench. I don't think so we'll play him against Palace. Again, it could be a tricky fixture. They've looked really good. They have a lot of quality in attack. And I think a clean sheet looks unlikely for Semedo, so I might just bench him. Coming to midfielders now, I think Salah has to be essential, guys. I know majority of the people already have Salah. A lot of them are also captaining him. And if you don't captain him, guys, I think you're running a huge risk, especially with the effective ownership that is out there, guys. Even if Salah does give a return, maybe it's an assist, maybe it's a goal, he still is going to hurt your rank a lot, guys. And I think it's the safer option, it's the more sensible option to have him in your team and also captain him. Of course, from a stats perspective, he's doing really well. He's also playing West Ham, who don't keep a lot of clean sheets, who looked a bit weak in defense. And I'm pretty sure Liverpool is going to get a couple of goals in this one, and Salah should be a part of both. Our other players include Rafinha, guys. Now, Leeds are looking very nervy in attack, but I still feel Rafinha is the talisman with Bamford and the likes of Phillips out in the team. I know fixtures are tough. They have Leicester, Tottenham, Brighton, Palace, Brentford, Chelsea, then Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. So they are very tricky games. So as a pick, Rafinha might not be a one to hold on for a very long time. But I think for this particular week against a weak Leicester defense, it still looks fine. I still feel that he's the best Leeds player out there. And if Leeds are going to get anything from these games, from any kind of Premier League games, I think Rafinha is definitely going to be involved. So I'm keeping him for this week, but I think he very well might go after the international break, when we probably think of getting Son in our team for the good run of fixtures that Spurs have. Of course, you could also replace him with the likes of Foden. You could go the Son route as we just mentioned, or you could just save the money and go with someone like a ESR and a Gallagher, who look like very good, valuable picks, especially if you want to save money and you want to attack the form and the fixtures. In terms of fixtures, at least, I think ESR looks a bit tricky. Emil Smith-Rowe has tricky fixtures coming up, but he's still providing great value, guys. And at that price, you could easily bench him for the tougher games. Gallagher also looks okay. I know we've been unlucky with Gallagher. He was benched in our team last week. He did score a lot of points, but I still feel he's the go-to player in terms of the Palace attack, guys. I know a lot of people would be banking Saha, would be banking on him to do well, to score goals, to play a lot more attacking, and I think he will play a lot more attacking. But in general, I just feel a lot more confident with the Gallagher pick, especially if he could get some set pieces in the coming games. Now we have Buemo and Foden in our team as well, guys. Now Buemo should start against Norwich, guys. He would be playing out of position. I know Brentford haven't really played well against Burnley, but they would want to rectify that performance. I think Norwich is the best team to kind of face after a tricky game, after a tough game against Burnley. I also feel that Toney and Buemo, that partnership looks a lot better than what they played against Burnley. Yes, defensively, there are a few question marks out there in terms of the Brentford team, but I still feel in attack they looked very good. And in general, I think any team against Norwich, you would want to bet on that team, you want to bank on those FPL points. And I think Buemo for this particular game week looks like a really good option to play. Now Foden, who's that last midfielder in the 11 for this week, guys. I know he could get rotated. He played 80 minutes against Club Brugge, and I think that could be a factor in terms of playing for this week. But I think it's Man United, right? It's a derby game. It's an important game for Man City. Man City would want to keep a clean sheet. They would want to win this game, and they would want to make a statement against United, make things a bit tricky for their neighbors. And I think in general, Foden starts this one. I think he's one of the most important players in the Pep setup right now. I don't think so Pep would want to bench him for the important games. And again, there's a chance that he might play 60 or 70 minutes, get an early substitution, but I still feel he starts this game. I still feel he could get something from this game, especially with the likes of Maguire, Shaw, Van Bissaka, and Varane out for this game. I think that is massive, that is huge. I think that would give a lot of confidence to the City attackers. It of course makes sense to start him right now, guys. Maybe Son is looking like a better option right now with the Conte appointment, but I still feel both are very good options. I think in the future, in the coming game weeks, it makes a lot of sense to own both rather than going from Foden to probably someone like a Son. Now, in terms of a bench, we have Gallagher on the bench, guys. Wolves have had a good set of fixtures and their defensive numbers have looked quite good, so it's a tricky call to make. I still could change it before the deadline, but I still feel Gallagher probably would be staying on our bench. We could do the switch from a Gallagher to, let's say, we bench Antonio and get Gallagher, or maybe we bench Buemo and get Gallagher, but I still feel both of them, both Buemo and Antonio, they could score, they could do well this week. So I think Gallagher would remain on our bench. Now coming to our forwards, guys, and we have the likes of Jamie Vardy, Mikel Antonio, and Toney in our team. I think it's a pretty template, pretty straightforward forward line. Now, Jamie Vardy is playing Leeds. They look very weak in defense. They've leaked a lot of goals. They have really poor defensive underlying stats, guys. It looks a lot better when Leicester is playing one up top as compared to someone like a Vardy partnering with Iheanacho, guys. I think whenever Vardy has played up top as a lone frontman, I think he's done very well. And I think we saw this last season too, when he partnered with Iheanacho for a lot of games. And Iheanacho was doing major of the running. He was creating a lot of space, he was creating a lot of chances, and Vardy kind of got a bit overshadowed. I think we could see something similar in the coming games, especially with Brendan Rodgers changing formation, changing shape, and Vardy could possibly get out for someone like a Kane or maybe even a Ronaldo at that price point, or go a little higher with those premium players. For this particular week though, Vardy looks a really good pick. He's also a differential captaincy option, and I'm surprised that I'm talking about it because I'm also talking about Vardy not being that great an option anymore, or at least for the next few weeks. Probably you could look elsewhere, but for this week against Leeds, so generally players running behind those Leeds defenders, those runners do really well in these kind of games. I think Vardy is definitely a player who could do very well against Leeds United. Now coming to Mikel Antonio, guys, and it's a bit of a tricky one here because Antonio has tricky fixtures. He has Liverpool, Wolves, Man City, Brighton, Chelsea, Burnley, Arsenal. So they're tricky games. But on the other hand, he's been in great form. He's had a great season. His fitness is also up from last season. He's not getting those niggles, those knocks, and he's not missing games. That's really important from a forward perspective, guys. I think it's very difficult to lose him. There's too much value invested in Mikel Antonio. I know a lot of people bought him very early, and now he's had multiple price rises. So in case if you sell him now and then you want to get him for the easier fixtures, it could get a bit tricky. It could get a bit difficult. You would, of course, lose out on a lot of value. But more than that, I think it's also the fact that he could score against these teams. He's done that last season. He scored against majority of these teams last season as well. And in general, I think West Ham have looked like a really good attacking team. Yes, defensively, there are question marks to be posed, but I think from an attacking perspective, The likes of Antonio, Benrahma, Bowen, they've done really well and they could easily score against Liverpool. Another thing to consider here is that there are not a lot of replacements out there. Of course, you have the likes of Ronaldo and Kane in the premium category. Vardy probably is there, but a distant third maybe. But in terms of cheaper options, you don't really have a lot many players to go for. You have the likes of Armstrong, you have Broja, you have Toney, who's again not done a lot to convince your mind. So again, there are not a lot of options. If you want to keep him, there's absolutely merit in keeping him. If you feel that there are better upgrades available, you should definitely go for that. Our final pick is Toney, guys. Norwich have looked really bad in defense. They are a fixture target week on week. And I think in general, the teams who have played Norwich, their attackers, their strikers have done really well. So I'm assuming and I really feel confident in the Ivan Toney pick for this week, guys. He's also a differential captain only because he's facing Norwich and that bad defense. Of course, there's a case to be made that Norwich has done a lot better in the recent weeks. Their defensive numbers have slightly improved and things might not be that easy for Brentford. Now that Burnley have exposed their weaknesses, I think Norwich could get some learning out of that as well. And I think the result could be a bit different, but I still feel very confident in Toney and, getting something from this game. And look at the script, right? It has to be the perfect game where he could get his shooting boots and he could get a kick on in this season. Also, Mbeumo's going to be back, so I think that's going to be a massive boost for Toney. And there's also a great assist potential, great creativity potential in the pick. Overall, I feel he's a great pick. He's a great cheap option if he can start scoring. It also allows you to go to a Son or even a Kane by saving some money. So guys, that was our team for Game Week 11. A couple of tricky decisions in terms of benching and who to play for this week. Right now, Gallagher and Cancelo are on our bench. I think Semedo is definitely going to stay there, but I think I could easily make a case for Cancelo ahead of Livramento, and I think that would be a possible move before the deadline. Now, in terms of transfers, guys, and let's discuss what we are thinking of transfers, what players are we thinking of getting, and what are the players we are thinking of getting rid of for the upcoming game weeks for this particular week as well. And I think the one thing that we kind of spoke about earlier as well is that we've kind of got the wrong Chelsea defenders. We had Rudiger before the injury for a couple of weeks, or when he got injured, and we also had Azpilicueta, who did well for a couple of weeks. I think now it's time to get to a Reece James or a Ben Chilwell, guys. And if you are not on at least one of these defenders, I think you're very brave and you're losing out a lot of points. So you should definitely get one, if not both defenders in your team, guys. And I think that is the strategy. That's the direction we have in our mind. We're definitely looking at one of James and Chilwell, guys. Now, in terms of the comparison between both players, I think both have had similar minutes. So that's not really a big factor to kind of choose from. Also, it's worth noting that James is likely to be subbed on for a few minutes for the likes of Azpilicueta or even someone else in defense. I think that generally doesn't happen with Chilwell. So with Chilwell, you're either going to get a start and a clean sheet, maybe an attacking return, but you won't be getting those one-pointers with Chilwell. Now coming to goal threat, guys, and I don't think so there's too much to really differentiate between the both. Their shot numbers are similar, but it's clear that the quality of chances that James has been getting, they've been a lot higher, and that's why his finishing and his goal scoring has also been a lot higher. Also, from the eye test perspective, I think James has a lethal shot on him, guys. It's a lot better than what Chilwell has. He's also capable of scoring a goal anytime. I think James, he trumps Chilwell for creativity and assist potential as well. Guys, when I was reading some stats, I think the difference in open play XA, which is your open play expected assists in particular, that's quite stark in favor of James. I think that really tips the balance in terms of Reece James as my pick to go for. I'll be very surprised if James doesn't continue his chance creation dominance over the next 3 to 4 weeks, guys. I think the fixtures are there for him to do well, and I think I'll probably buy James this week. He's definitely cheaper. He seems to offer more end product and creativity. I think I'll decide later on if I want to get a double up or not. I think the fixtures are probably not there for a double up, but at least one thing is for sure, guys, I'm gonna get one defender. It's gonna be James. I think both are great options, to be very honest. Both James and Chilwell are great options. If you want to go a bit safer, you probably go with Chilwell considering the starts. But I think James would still be a lot more confident. At least I'll be more confident in terms of James starting in the next couple of weeks. And the attacking potential looks really good, guys. So this was our transfer for the week, guys. What are you thinking for your team for Game Week 11? Do let us know in the comments below. Now coming to captaincy, guys, and I still feel there's not a lot of merit. There's not a lot of discussion in terms of what player you want to go for. Of course, it's going to be Mohamed Salah. I think it's going to take something really special or a very risky sort of a manager or an approach to go against the curve, to go against someone who's probably not Salah at the moment, the effective ownership is going to be very, very high, guys. So if Salah really scores well and if he does really well, I think going to lose out on a lot of points. So probably just avoid that, go a bit safer with Salah. He's playing West Ham. He's also had a great record against West Ham. And again, as I said, the effective ownership is going to be very high. I'm still expecting returns from him this week. So guys, just keep it simple and go with the Egyptian King. Just in case, if you don't want to go with Salah, if you want to go for someone else, you could of course look at a Jamie Vardy against the Leeds team, who, as I said, they concede a lot of shots, they concede a lot of chances, they also concede a lot of goals. And Vardy being a runner, especially if he plays lone up front, I think he could do really well in this game. He also could be a great differential captaincy option if you don't want to go with Salah. Now, the third option that we have here is Son, guys. I know there's a lot of speculation in terms of how Tottenham are going to do now that Conte is the manager for Spurs, and it could be very positive, to be very honest. Again, I probably would want to see one more game, then kind of jump onto him, whether it's in terms of captaincy, whether it's in terms of a transfer. But I think Everton, especially with Everton playing so bad in the last 2 weeks, guys, that inspires a lot of confidence in the Spurs attack. Of course, a new manager coming in, there will be a manager bounce, and I think Son could do really well in this game. I think he's a lot better option than Kane right now. And especially with the way Everton have been conceding goals, I think he could really run riot against the Toffees. Now, in case, guys, if you really want to stick your net out there, if you're catching up on a lot of points, if you're doing catch up, if you're falling behind, you could look at some differential captains. First is Toney against Norwich, guys. This is definitely one of the fixtures to target for this particular week. Is that I'm not very, very confident in terms of Brentford after that Burnley performance. I think there's a lot of speculation in terms of how Brentford are going to react. Also, Norwich have looked slightly better in terms of the defense, especially against the slightly weaker teams. And I think it could be tricky, but again, it's Norwich at the end of the day. They are whipping boys, and if you really want to go for a differential, I think Toney has to be the pick. This is the perfect game for him to start scoring and start delivering us FPL points, guys. We know that Norwich conceded a lot of chances. We also saw Chelsea putting a lot of goals, putting 7 past them. And I think Toney's stats, they are the best on the team. I think Norwich also concede the most number of chances from the center. So that is really inspiring. Now, another great option could be Emil Smith-Rowe, guys. I think he's a great differential. He's probably the best differential this week. An Arsenal midfielder who got 2 consecutive returns and 3 returns in the last 5 game weeks. And also, 2 of those tallies, 2 of those returns have been in double digits, guys. So I think he's done really well. I think he's going, again, under the radar. Not a lot of people are going for Emil Smith-Rowe. But with that price, in that bracket, right, he looks like a great option to have. Another very interesting fact here is that, guys, since his haul in game week 6, that was the first haul that he got, only Mo Salah and Ben Chilwell have outscored him. The Arsenal man has got 39 points, guys, and the other 2 players have been 62 and 43. So there's a huge difference, of course, but I think coming from an Arsenal team, coming from a team who was struggling in attack and now kind of have things in order, have things in play, I think he looks like a great option this week. Also, Watford don't really inspire a lot of confidence in defense. They also concede a lot of shots. They concede a lot of goals. They're probably the second worst defense in the league. Only Norwich is probably worse than them. And I think Arsenal could get a couple of goals easily in this game, with Emil Smith-Rowe contributing in majority of them. Our final option, guys, is a really good option. It's a defender. It's Reece James. It's not because we are probably getting him in our team this week. It's just a hunch, and I feel that Reece James is probably again going to do really well in this particular game, guys. Right now, all the points seem to come from the Chelsea defense, guys. A clean sheet looks like a formality at the moment. And I think James, he also has excellent goal threat, excellent attacking threat, and that could easily lead to another double-digit haul. And for that haul, guys, I think it's well worth it to take a chance, to take a risk. If you want to take a risk, if you want to go anti-Salah, I think there's a good chance to go for someone like a Reece James against Burnley, where you could get a lot of points. So guys, these are our picks, these are our captain picks, and a few tasty differentials for Game Week 11, guys. Who are you captaining for this week? Do let us know in the comments below. So that'll be all from my side, guys. I really hope you'll find this video helpful in setting up your team for Game Week 11. Make sure to hit the like button, guys, if you liked our team selection video. That'll help us reach more people on YouTube and help many more FPL managers like you. It'll also help us rank in the algorithm, so that'll be really appreciated. Also consider subscribing to the channel, guys, if you liked our content, if you're new around here. We'll be back for the deadline stream. As I said earlier in the last video as well, guys, it's going to be an hour and a half before the deadline. So make sure you join us for any last minute questions or transfer queries. All the best to all FPL managers. Enjoy your week, and I'll see you insaners next time.